Right, so I'm going to begin. I mean, by saying, the directors said they were astounded with your rigorous research for this part, for taking on this role. I just wondered what sort of research you undertook to get into the head of the character of Vikram.
Well, that's actually a very good question. It's kind of a balance between trying to make it as entertaining as possible and maintaining a certain amount of realism. There have been films about cops with guns quite often in most cultures. And the idea is to kind of do something that somehow stands apart in some way. I mean, that's the struggle. So you kind of go through the script and try and make him as human as possible, really. And I suppose that's the kind of key. So I know, when you come to marketing a movie, you kind of find various pegs, and some of them sound, quite far out, and some of them sound interesting. But it's pretty creatively challenging to come up with interesting pegs on how to start selling a movie. So one of the things that's come out is kind of a thing of preparing rigorously with guns. And just for example, I mean, and habit and familiarity can be very dangerous things for actors and for filmmakers, because you start taking things for granted in a way. Like, for example, the sounds and kind of actions based around guns and people who shoot guns, kind of real guns behave quite differently to film guns. Obviously, first and foremost, unless you're very unlucky, as unfortunately has happened in the recent past, you don't get hurt with film guns. They're not as loud, they don't kick as much. There's all kinds of things. The sound that a real gun makes and the kind of damage it creates, obviously, I mean, is something that we shot some real guns, and we kind of got the feeling of what these high-powered weapons are like in terms of sound and feel. Tried to use the mechanics a little bit more, rather than have guns that kind of never run out of bullets and that sort of thing. And at the same time, trying to make it kind of cool in a kind of pop culture kind of way. So I think that was the challenge, and that was the kind of research to find some kind of a difference. Maybe some people don't bother with that kind of thing, but we thought maybe it'd be interesting to just spend a few seconds doing that. And I think it does kind of stand out. What happens to a gun when it's empty? Can you use that in a scene? Because there's a kind of there's a button that just shuts it all off, for example. And that's a nice way of closing a scene as well, like zipping up a jacket or something. Once you understand the technicalities of these things, you can use them in different ways for your performance. So I guess that's the only that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, because I was wondering, when you sort of do play like a cop or someone works in law, do you play the character like a real police officer, like a real law enforcer, or has the kind of detective cop creation become so ingrained in cinematic storytelling that your reference points are kind of other police officers from other movies instead?
That's, again, it's such a good question, because that's what I was trying to answer in the first question, that so much of our information comes from other movies. Especially, that's what I meant when I was talking about the gun, for example. Like right there, the sound of it and the feel of it and the effect of it. Like if I was to fire a live 357 Magnum in this room at that wall, I can promise you nobody, I mean 99.9% people in movies would have no idea what the impact of that would be, is what I'm trying to say. And if you can present that impact the way it should be presented, like some people do, it really does change things. So to go on to the other thing, there is a tendency. I mean, you look at Indian cops. I don't know about American cops or European cops, fortunately or unfortunately. I haven't had much experience. But there is a type of guy. You can spot a cop, there is a certain gait, there's a body language, there's an attitude. There's also there's a look. They've all got a certain kind of mustache and a certain kind of officious kind of attitude. You can usually spot a cop. It's incredible. You would have thought they'd be very different individually, and maybe they are when it comes down to it. But on the face of it, there is a similarity. So that's the kind of physical side. And then, of course, the only way to make him stand out is to try and get into the personal things as much as possible, and to stay away from other movies and to completely forget that he is a cop. And this is one of the more clever scripts I've read about it, because it does examine the morality of being a policeman as well, and whether you're taking the law into your own hands is, is that not a crime as well? So that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned obviously having to learn sort of new skills. I think what you do as a profession, I mean, it could be learning how to shoot a gun, it could be learning how to ride a horse with a sword in your hand. Show films like this and taking on roles like this, does it remind you why you love acting? Because when we're little boys, all we do is pretend. We pretend to be criminals, we pretend to be cops, and here you are doing it as an adult. Does this job keep you young at heart, do you think?
I think that, I mean, there's a couple of, I mean, firstly, there must have been at least about 10 times that I've said on this movie that, I mean, this is what we used to do as kids, and now they're paying us to try and do it properly. So you take it very seriously. I suppose half the fun of playing games is there's no kind of, you're not going to be judged on it later. And I mean, I suppose that's perhaps the only difference between what we do and what children do. Yeah, you have to be childlike and have that excitement. And it's sad, like, and you see, I mean, I'm 52, and you see pictures of, sometimes people, I mean, they're kind of people write off people after a certain age. Say, oh, okay, time to retire, or now you're an old guy or whatever. Fashion, there's age appropriate clothes where people, don't wear. Unless you're, I mean, then you look at the LA musicians and they're all dressed like, really young and crazy, and like age doesn't seem. So I guess if you've got a job that's paying you, then this slotting of people in certain age groups doesn't count. And actors is definitely like, is one of those professions where you have to be young at heart, and it does keep you. I mean, I think my religion is cinema. So, but what I mean by that is, it is my morality as well is kind of based around it in a way, my health regime, what I consider okay. I think a lot of us, whether we admit it or not, our religion is kind of movies in so many ways. And it does keep you young because it keeps you disciplined, healthy, all these things. And it has to become a lifestyle. But the most important thing is your eyes should light up when you see the potential in a scene and say, oh, this is going to be great fun running around doing this. And if you don't have that, then you can't bring that X factor to the scene, I feel. So
Has that always been there for you, that feeling? Has it ever gone away? Because I guess like with anything, when you do a job for a number of years, after a while things can become quite quite repetitive sometimes. But have you always maintained that same love for your craft?
You're absolutely right. And you're obviously a very wise person who knows exactly what he's talking about. I can tell from your questions have surprised me, because I'm not used to also doing interviews. It's been a quiet time. But sorry, please ask me that question again.
It was asking if that feeling of kind of like you said about that, where your eyes light up, if it's always been there, yeah.
People don't understand. I mean, if you do anything too much, or if you don't do it in the right way, I mean, at least with me, it can easily get too much. So, literally something as mundane as having the weekend off, or just, it's so simple really, just to like take a bit of time for yourself so that you retain some sense of wonder for what you're actually doing. The minute it becomes something regular in that sense, yes. I mean, one of the things I love about this job, I was a very distracted, kind of academically disinterested kind of teenager, like I'm sure there are a few around, and one thing that really I loved about this job is that you look at your watch and it's 2 PM, and you look at it again, it's 7 PM, and you're like, oh my God, amazing. The day's gone by, you've been so absorbed. And if that doesn't happen ever, and if you start saying, oh, this is, because it can be painful as well. So it's about that, and that's part of the job, I think, is to retain the excitement for it. And therefore, I mean, we've all worked for money, or we've worked for, this and that, and different reasons. People used to joke about, that various reasons why you could do a movie. But ideally, it should be because it's just really good fun and exciting. And if you're lucky enough to be able to do that, then certain projects, I mean, I love it. I love being on a set, but also I've been disciplined and worked hard to not just do something I don't enjoy, because you can very easily, and I've very often been on a film which you don't enjoy, and then, it's not as much fun.
Yeah. You mentioned your youth. I just wanted to ask about, because I know you studied. I'm an Englishman, so I've got to ask this. But you studied in England, is that right? Did you ever come back here? Did you ever come and visit, or would you ever consider coming to make a movie back in Britain?
I've done a lot of films. I don't know about an English film. I would love to work in England, and we've done a lot of work in England. Lots and lots of work in England. You have a tremendous rebate offer where we get 40% of your money back. So everybody likes to shoot in England. I and my father before me have had like a very, like a really, really good English education, to be honest. I went to what is called a prep school as well in Hertfordshire, called Locust Park, and then I was at Winchester College. And I didn't go to university, so which I'm finally over and I'm not ashamed of anymore, because I think my life has been a success. But for the longest time, that was the biggest waste, academic waste in my family, was me. Everyone else has been to Oxford. So we're a very academic family. But there you have it.
Did you like our food? Do you miss our food? You can be honest. I won't be offended.
Many things about England. I mean, but yeah, I do love the food. I love the food, and I mean, you import your wine, but I love drinking it in London.
To go back to the movie,
Yeah.
I had to ask as well about collaborating with Hrithik on this and that experience. I know it's been some years, I believe. It must have been not just good fun to collaborate with him on this, but also you get to have some good fights together. That must always be good, because that must be quite a bonding experience, I think, for actors, because of the choreography and everything that goes into those scenes.
It's amazing. Nobody's asked me these things, but it is, I imagine, a lot. I mean, it tells you a lot about the person you're working with. And we didn't really fight that much, but there's been other films where you fought with people, and it kind of tells you a lot about them, like probably real fighting does, which I don't know much about. But you understand their levels of, sportsmanship and grace and all kinds of things. And you feel you've gone through something together, and it's brought you, you suddenly know each other and respect each other in a different way. It is always an interesting experience like that. Hrithik is someone who I was, I thought I should go to train hard and be as careful as possible and really put my best foot forward, because I think he's one of those stars that the camera loves. He looks great and he's very hardworking. And I just wanted to try and keep up. And I was, how they say, when you play with people better than you, or, it kind of brings out your game. So that was my approach. And I think it came out well. I don't know about better than you. Let's say taller and more handsome. which is upsetting in its own way.
On that note, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you so much for those great answers. Yeah, it's been really great.
That was really nice. I hope we do an interview sometime in the future. I remember this.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey